It was 9 p.m. I was lying in bed, pinned down by my 5 months old daughter. Her cheek warm against my breast. If I moved, she stirred. So I stayed still, eyes open in the dark. Earlier that day, I'd pushed myself to finish an online course that I'd convinced myself was the right next step for my business. My partner had helped me set up the take because we'd agreed that this was the right move together. But as I lay there, I couldn't ignore the knot in my gut. I knew it wasn't the right course. My intuition has been whispering that for weeks, but I'd shove it down because I didn't want to disappoint my partner. I had a choice to make: betray myself to please him or stay true to myself and risk his disappointment. This episode is for the ones who crave authenticity but feel stuck in the grip of external expectation. I'll tell you a story of how the fear of letting others down actually led me to betray myself and what it took to break free. Stay with me until the very end for a beautiful poem that inspires you to break free from all of the inner cages so you can claim what's meant for you and belong fully to yourself. In this series, we journey along the untamed path of freedom and purpose. I'm Milena, here to share story, insights, and even poetry that guide you towards a life and business rooted in your soul. So let's take a deep breath. Pour yourself a cup of hibiscus tea and let's wander down the Wildflower Way together. I walk my bicycle through the iron gate into the front yard, the metal chain ticking with each step. I was 14 years old. It was 8 p.m. and the night felt unusually heavy. In the living room, my dad sat in front of the TV as always, but this time his face was clouded. Something in the air told me I was in trouble. "Hi, Dad." I tried to slip past him towards the stair, hoping he wouldn't notice. "Where have you been?" His voice cut through the room. My stomach sank. He knew. Instead of attending my afternoon physics class, I spent the afternoon playing computer games at the internet cafe. I had no idea how he found out, but he did. I stood frozen at the bottom of the stairs, unsure of what to say. My dad rose from his chair and walked toward me. Bam! The slap stung, then burned. I could handle that. I'd been slapped before. But what came next broke me. "I am very disappointed in you." His voice was ice. Those words cut deeper than the slap ever could. I panicked. "I'm sorry." A whisper. "I'm sorry." Louder now. "I'm so sorry." Over and over, as if I could stitch the wound shut with repetition. In my family, being ngoan, which is the Vietnamese word for obedient, was everything. A good girl was pleasant, respectful, helpful, and earned good grades at school. Being ngoan earned me Dad's smile, Mom's pride when she boasted about me to our relatives, and trip to the DVD store for a minted copy of The Lord of the Rings. The opposite of ngoan was hu, stubborn, rebellious, and disappointing. The cost of being hu wasn't just the slap, it was the withdrawal of love. Love became something I had to earn, and when I failed, it felt like it was all taken away. That's how the fear of disappointing others planted itself deep in my heart. Years later, I found myself haunted by that same fear, just in a different disguise. At 23, I was working in Rotterdam, the Netherlands. A Vietnamese woman with a seat at the global leadership table of ISEC, the world's largest youth-led organization for leadership development of young people. From the outside, I was making history, but inside, I was barely holding it together. Rotterdam's sky mirrored my inner world, gray, heavy, relentless. I felt like an imposter in one of the most democratic, open-minded workplaces imaginable. Nobody explicitly put pressure on me. My teammates were kind, thoughtful, and supportive, yet every day felt like the Hunger Game. One wrong step, and it'd be over. I'll disappoint someone, prove myself unworthy, and just like that, crumble. Thousands of ISEC members around the world would have given anything for that role. It could have been the most incredible year of my life, but my fear turned it into one of the most stressful years I've ever lived. We carry our childhood wounds like invisible luggage and project them onto everyone around us. That's exactly what I did. Most of us want to do good work and meet other expectations, and there's nothing inherently wrong with that. But when the fear of disappointing others comes at the cost of our own well-being, our mental health, and our truth, we have to pause and ask ourselves why. Why do we say yes when we mean no? Why do we choose a career that drains us instead of light us up? And why? Why do we twist ourselves into knots, making life a living hell just to avoid letting someone down? Tanya, a coaching client, once told me about the night she sat in her bedroom sobbing with a job offer letter in her hands. It was a prestigious role that made her parents proud, but it wasn't her dream. She felt trapped between obligation and authenticity. That night, she sat with a letter in her hand and her dream in the other, realizing she couldn't have both. Tanya's deeper struggle wasn't just indecision, it was that she spent years living up to others' expectations and lost access to her own inner compass. That quiet, intuitive voice that whispers answers to questions like, what do I really want? What is my purpose? Part of my work as her coach was helping Tanya reconnect with that compass. Her guiding affirmation became, I give myself permission to disappoint others. Not out of cruelty or selfishness, but out of kindness to herself. The more Tanya practiced this, the more freedom and lightness she felt. And that spaciousness allowed her to explore work that lit up her soul. She went on to create a career aligned with her strength and passion. And here's the truth. You cannot live your purpose, speak your truth, and build something meaningful without disappointing other people. It's part of a journey. And no, giving yourself permission to disappoint others does not make you selfish. The fact that you are even asking that question shows how much you care. Now, sacrificing your truth to earn someone's approval, that is selfish. Selfish to your inner child, to your soul, to your higher self. It was 9 p.m. I was lying in bed, pinned down by my 5-month-old daughter. Her cheek warm against my breast. If I moved, she stirred. So I stayed still, eyes open in the dark. Earlier that day, I'd pushed myself to finish an online course that I'd convinced myself was the right next step for my business. My partner had helped me set up the take because we'd agreed that this was the right move together. But as I lay there, I couldn't ignore the knot in my gut. I knew it wasn't the right course. My intuition has been whispering that for weeks, but I'd shove it down because I didn't want to disappoint my partner. I had a choice to make: betray myself to please him or stay true to myself and risk his disappointment. I chose to stay true. When I told him, I could see the disappointment on his face. It was uncomfortable, but I did not die. And guess what? Neither did he. He processed his feelings and moved on. He continued to support me as I found a topic that genuinely lit me up. We need to remember that the right people, the people who loved us for who we are, can handle disappointment. And they will still love us. Now, as a coach who helps other heart-centered coaches build financially sustainable and soul-fulfilling businesses, I see this fear show up all the time. Many aspiring coaches hesitate to show up online and share their unique story or charge fair rates for their life-changing work because they are afraid of disappointing their family, their peers, a potential client, or even strangers on the internet. But the world doesn't need another coach hiding behind a facade of perfection. The world needs you in your fullest, most trustful expression. Building a soul-aligned coaching business means being willing to stand tall in your truth, even if it shakes the ground beneath others' feet. It means risking the discomfort of disappointing someone else so you don't abandon yourself. When you give yourself permission to disappoint others, you finally let yourself thrive. And different from that evening at 14 when I walked through the iron gate, I realize now that my worth isn't tied to obedience anymore. I no longer hear the meter chain ticking with fear. I hear the hum of my purpose. No more being a good girl by someone else's definition. I am a woman who belongs fully to herself. The story I just told you, I actually wrote it first in an article back in 2020. So it's 5 years ago from the time of recording this podcast, and it is still so relevant. I was truly raised to be a good girl. I was the firstborn child in a really traditional Vietnamese family from the north of Vietnam in Hanoi. And even before I was born, people already gather around my mom and her pregnant tummy and say that this is such a boon to have the firstborn daughter because she's gonna be so much help, right? So I was conditioned even before I was born to be someone who help others, who take care of other people, to be obedient and ngoan. I still remember my first report card in primary school. The teacher wrote in it that I was ngoan. Ngoan, right? That's the Vietnamese word for obedient. And that was meant to be like a high compliment. And my mom was so proud that the teacher say that I was ngoan in class. So to build the life and the business I have today, I have had to disappoint a lot of people. And that is really one important part of the journey. It's funny when we think about the people who have made a true mark in the world, who have contributed in a significant way to humanity. I don't think anybody have done that and then say, wow, that was so hard. I really tried my best not to disappoint anybody. Learning to tolerate other people's disappointment is one important skill that we need to build, especially if we were conditioned from an early age to be a people pleaser, to be a caretaker, to make other people happy. We all unconsciously grew up taking on jobs that isn't truly ours, but we take on them so that we can survive. And one of the jobs I took was someone to take care of other people's feelings. I was an empath growing up in an emotionally volatile family. And I was the calm one, the one who broker peace. And so I've taken on that job to take care of others, people's feeling, to notice when people is upset and play my role to make people feel better. And I had to do that just to survive. I could not cope with how emotionally volatile my upbringing was. So maybe that's you too. And if that is okay, then it's even more important that you free yourself from that job. Writing a resignation letter could be a really fun exercise here. Writing a resignation letter to resign from jobs that you've unconsciously taken, and now you know those jobs are holding you back from stepping into your true potential, from stepping into your true calling. So that decision I made, that I share with you in the story just now, I decided to not going forth with the course. I still remember that night. My daughter was on our bed and I was there. It was late at night, and I just turned to my partner and say, "Hey, I'm so sorry if this disappoints you, but I just have to say this. And I'm actually afraid of telling you this because I'm so afraid of upsetting you or making you disappointed. I cannot go forth with this course. I don't know why, but it just does not feel aligned to me. I cannot explain why yet." And he just take a breath, he looked at me and he said, "Okay." So I think also many times we make it a bigger deal than it actually is. If you just go forward and speak your truth and tell the people that you are so afraid of disappointing that, hey, it's very hard for me to share this because I cared about you so much and I don't want to upset you or make you disappointed, but I just have to say this because I want to be true to myself and I want to be honest in our relationship that I really cannot do this. Trust them with that and let them surprise you. A lot of the time, you'll find that people can surprise you. Interestingly enough, that decision I made in 2020 actually gave me the space I needed because I did not go forward with creating that online course. It gave me the space I needed to fully claim my lane as a business coach. I was transitioning. So back then I was doing still a lot of purpose coaching, helping people to do a purposeful career transition. And I have started doing business coaching, but it was still smaller. And that's why also my partner, who was also an entrepreneur, advised me that to go forward with creating an online course to help people to do a career transition with purpose and intention and find an aligned career path, that would be very easy to sell because I already have a community, I already have my brand. And that's why I'd convinced myself it was the right next step. But it wasn't right for me, right? And if I did not have the daringness to risk disappointing my partner and say no, then I would not have the space and time to fully claim my lane as a business coach. And I would not have been here and I wouldn't be able to support so many incredible humans to start their businesses in the past 5 years. Many times, even when the logical answer is there, but we need to trust our intuition and follow our intuition. Sometimes we can't even have a logical explanation to things, and risking other people disappointment, it would be still the best step for us. And the last thing I want to share is that to live a life of authenticity and courage, we need to learn to tolerate other people's discomfort. It's one thing to step outside of our comfort zone and to find the comfort in the edge of a comfort zone or find the comfort outside of the comfort zone. That's for us. We need to tolerate the discomfort of being outside of our comfort zone. And also, we need to learn how to build our tolerance to other people's discomfort. Because you speaking your truth is gonna trigger other people, it's gonna upset someone. The one who were comfortable with the previous version of who you were, they will be uncomfortable. But you need to learn to build that tolerance so you can be who you truly are and also become who you meant to become and advocate for yourself. Advocate for yourself, being your biggest cheerleader. And this poem is titled When the Golden Cage Crumbles. This was the very first poem I wrote. So I think I wrote it in 2018. And it has gone through several rounds of edits. And I think as you listen to it, you'll find it really fitting with the theme that we mentioned in the podcast episode today. You're breaking free from fear so you can become who you're meant to be. When the golden cage crumbles, you are trapped in a golden cage handcrafted by your culture. Each bar a decree. Your mother wants you to be a doctor, your father an engineer, your friends want you to blend in, your leaders want you to bend. They all want you to be someone. You forget how to be you, the girl who wants to dance beneath shooting stars, the boys who longs to run barefoot with wolves in moonlight. You are trapped in a golden cage made by your own hands with your beak and claws. You collected gilded straw, weaving neat little rows, because they say that's what birds need, because they say that's where birds belong. You stay in the golden cage, dreaming of flight but fearing the fall. It's too vast, you whisper, too wild. So you make yourself small, fold your wings until they crack. It hurts, you say, but it's safe, like a cocoon that forgot how to open. One morning, an eagle cuts through the cloud, its shadow, long and holy. It cries out, child, remember who you are. The cage is not real, it will crumble the moment you choose to leave it. Trust your wings, trust the wind and the sky, and you inhale once, twice. 7 deep breaths, your wings unfurl, blazing storm of red and gold, like a sunrise that cannot be caged. With wings of fire you torch the black and white Polaroids of must and shoot. You, wearing a perfect apron, standing in a perfect kitchen, holding a perfect knife, smiling a perfect smile. You, lying awake, counting your mistakes instead of stars. You, sweeping your dreams under the rug where you stand behind the lives of others. Let them burn to ashes and rise. Rise, a phoenix reborn. Can you see it now? The sky painted wild with your name. You dancing beneath shooting star. You running barefoot with wolves in moonlight. You casting off shame like a torn veil. Your beauty bare and unbreakable. You, glowing in the center of your truth, a wildfire untamed. You, softening into love, the kind you don't need to earn. You, claiming the sky that was always yours. You, let the golden cage dissolve into smoke. You, setting yourself free. Thanks for joining me on this very free-spirited episode of the Wildflower Way. I'll be so grateful if you could subscribe to the podcast, rate it, and especially leave a review, because that's the best way to help other wildflower women to find their way here with us. Now, the best way to connect with me would be to join my Wildflower Letter. It's free, but it's not cheap, and it is loved by 4,000 readers worldwide. Go to milenanguyen.com/letter, and that's milenanguyen.com/letter. I'll see you in the next episode. Until then, may your heart be wild and your spirit free. Now go out there and bloom.